What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and I am back with my team builder for week 3 of the GBA D-League Season 3. This week we are against the Donphanatic Jack and his Norwich Skitty. Definitely an exciting matchup, and he did pass us that nice L last time I faced him in the PPL, so we are looking for revenge here in this match for sure. But in case you missed last week's upload, we did have a game against Daniki and the Rosa Radenborg. Make sure to pause this video right now and go back and check if you haven't seen that already, as you're about to hear a spoiler on that, as we did end up winning that game 2-0, advancing us to a 2-0 record with a +6 differential, which is good enough to tie us for first place in the entire D-League right now. We are tied with Aster J and the Montreal Habsels, and if we both manage to win our games here in week 3, then we very well might be tied as well going into week 4. But we have to take care of business here first against the Donphanatic, who is a solid player. He gets down on himself a lot, thinking he's not that good, but he's solid. He's definitely solid. He can beat anyone on any given day, so really have to keep my eye out on him for sure on that. But make sure to check him out. I believe I already said this, but he is linked in the description below now. Let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup here, as my opponent Jack has access to Mega Lopunny, Latias, Clefable, Registeel, Crocodile, Volcarona, Dhelmise, Skuntank, Electivire, Floatzel, and Staraptor, with his possible Z users being the Volcarona, Electivire, and the Floatzel. So he is the only team in the league, I believe, that has access to 3 Z captains throughout the season, which does make his team slightly tougher to prep for, I feel, just because he has that extra option to blow me back whenever he wants, basically. But the good news is I don't really think that the Electivire especially has a very solid matchup against my team. I think the Floatzel does have a decent matchup, and that's something I really do need to prep carefully for. The Volcarona as well is just always a massive threat if it ever is able to get a free Quiver Dance, but my job basically in building my team is to make sure that Volcarona never has that opportunity. But just looking across his roster, some of the bigger threats to my team on paper would include the Crocodile especially. I don't think my team really switches in well to the combination of ground and dark coverage. That said, most teams honestly don't, as those are 2 of the most spammable typings in the game, but my team is no exception here, as I don't really have the best switch-ins to that combination. I also think, like I said before, that the Volcarona is incredibly scary against my team if it's able to get up a Quiver Dance, but I need to make sure that is not allowed to ever happen, and if it does happen, I do need to make sure I have some sort of fail-safe way to work around that as well. I think that the Staraptor is kind of annoying for my team, as it can pressure me a lot with the flying offense. It does force me into bringing some of my flying checks here in this game, which isn't necessarily a bad thing given the matchup, but I'll get more into what I decide to do to combat that here in a second. But I don't think I really talked about the Floatzel too much. Floatzel is honestly a pretty big threat to me, and the reason why it's a big threat is that I have to be able to deal with this combination of the Mega Lopunny and Crocodile. And in order to do that, I have to bring certain physical checks, because those are always going to be physical attackers. I have to bring these physical checks that will deal with those. But if you look across my roster, those physical checks, if they are pressured to deal with the combination of Crocodile and Mega Lopunny, might not also be able to deal with the Floatzel. So I have to be very careful in terms of how I am constructing this team to make sure I always have some sort of way to deal with a potential Floatzel in the back. That could be Bulk Up, it could be Rain Dance with Swift Swim, it could be Z Move, it could also be Life Orb. It can do a lot of things against my team, and it's actually kind of spooky, and I honestly think he might bring it, because if I recall in his commentary from week 2, he mentioned how Floatzel actually would have matched up well against the team his opponent brought, and he was kind of upset that he didn't bring it. That tells me he's probably going to be searching for ways to maybe bring Floatzel here in this matchup as well. So honestly, I kind of expect to see Floatzel, and I might be worrying about it more than I really should, but it's kind of scary, honestly, and it's something that I'm going to have to be very cautious about, I believe, when I play the battle, especially if he brings it, but also in my prep as I am preparing for it. So those are probably the biggest threats overall against my team offensively. I think Clefable could also be pretty annoying if I don't prep adequately for that, but that's just the nature of Clefable. Fact of the matter is, Clefable is the one mon that I truly believe I know inside and out, and if I lose to a Clefable, that's just bad. So I'm going to make sure the Clefable has no chance to sweep me or do anything nasty against me, because I really do think I have the tools to be able to make that happen. So Megalop, also just a casual revenge sweeper. Kind of annoying in general against my team because it can revenge so many things, but I do have solid checks to that as well. But now, before I dive into my bigger threats against his team, let's break down his draft a little bit and see some of the flaws that I might be able to exploit. So if you look across his draft, I believe he has pretty much every single mon except the Floatzel and the Electivire is pretty much restricted to a physical or special moveset. They don't really run mixed sets, if that makes sense. So I guess Skuntank kind of can go both ways as well. But if you look at his most threatening offense, okay, Volcarona, always special. Megalop, always physical. Latias, always special, obviously can run Psyshock. Clefable, always special. Registeel's not a threat. Crocodile, always physical, etc. Staraptor. I think that's his team's biggest weakness, honestly, is that it's very predictable in terms of the physical, special side of the spectrum that is going to be approaching me with. And what that means is that I can more easily avoid lures, or more easily just deal with them, honestly. I'm able to bring specific counters to this Pokemon and not have to fear it potentially also being a special threat if it was already going to be a physical threat. For example, if he had something like a Lucario, I wouldn't be able to do that because it's able to also run special sets. So the fact that his team is so one-dimensional in that regard does make my prep a little bit easier, and I would consider that somewhat of a flaw with his team, in that he's going to really struggle to beat his counters with the Pokemon he has available to him. And that was really the problem I felt like I had whenever I had Mega Lopunny in the NPL a couple seasons back, is that Mega Lopunny really struggles to beat its counters. He needs to have ways to chip down his counters through other means for Mega Lopunny to be able to do anything. But then you look across his supporting members for Mega Lopunny, and they also are kind of one-dimensional, not really able to beat their counters. So that's the kind of thing I'm trying to exploit here with this matchup, I feel. Other than that, though, his team is super scary. I think the offensive synergy and defensive synergy is solid on his team. The defense is a little bit passive, and that's the other thing that I'm really going to try to hammer on here with my team building. His defense relies heavily on the combination of kind of Latias, but mainly Clefable, Registeel, and Dhelmise, and the rest of his team really doesn't pull off defensive sets very well. Skuntank, I mean, kind of can be defensive, but I'm going to be honest, I don't fear Skuntank in the slightest. So just dealing with his defense isn't necessarily that tough because of it being passive, and therefore very weak to taunt. So you're going to see here whenever we jump into my team build that taunt is a key strategy that I am building around. Basically the combination of taunt spam plus denying Volcarona's setup at every single encounter possible, as well as having ways to check a Volcarona if it somehow gets that +1, is if I am able to build a stout defensive core that can deal with that combination of the Mega Lopunny, Staraptor, Crocodile, and I guess +1 Volcarona as well, and the Latias. Then if I can do that, as well as having those taunt options on deck to prevent Clefable from doing anything, to prevent Registeel from ever doing anything, just in general preventing passive things from doing passive things, as well as being able to deny setup from Volcarona, I think that is the game plan that can win this matchup. So I've been rambling on here for about 8 minutes, I believe. Let's go ahead and hop on over to the team builder so you can see what I decided to actually bring here. So we are kicking this off with the Tornadus T. This is a sharp beak variant because I really didn't need any other item, if I'm being honest. I thought about an Assault Vest to help me deal with a potential special Floatzel, but the fact of the matter is I want Taunt on this thing because he has a Clefable and a Registeel, and Taunt is just such a good move against his team. I also wanted to still be able to take hits from stuff like the Floatzel, maybe even the Mega Lopunny or even the Crocodile, and with just 244 investment in HP and the 4 and 4 in defense and Spadef, I'm actually able to take hits from all of those even after Stealth Rock. So this Tornty is an absolute monster for him to deal with. He can't even OHKO me with a Scarfed Staraptor, even if Adamant Reckless, so I can lead with this Pokemon very freely on turn 1, and he will not be able to kill me with, quite frankly, anything on his team outside of a potential, I think Banded Electivire might be his only way to OHKO me on turn 1. I'm looking across his roster, yeah, that's the only way he kills me on turn 1, unless he brings a Bandit Staraptor and is able to get off that attack on me, but I don't think he'd stay in anyways in that instance. But regardless, yeah, so this is a phenomenal lead against this team because of Taunt and U-Turn, as well as having enough bulk to take a hit from anything on his team, and being able to Hurricane and Heat Wave his entire roster and basically give him a really hard time. So this can single-handedly 1v1 most of his roster, quite honestly. Torty is so good, man. It's so good right now. It's crazy, especially in the D-League. It has so many good matchups. this is certainly no exception here. So very solid mon overall. The Sharp Beak does allow me to do obviously a little bit more damage to his passive stuff, especially like Fable. Being able to chip that down a little bit quicker because I don't have knockup on this set. Having that boost in power is definitely nice. It's also a guaranteed OHKO on the Mega Lopunny, and guarantees that the Staraptor will be in range of death after the recoil from his Brave Bird plus this Hurricane. So that's pretty nice there for sure. The defense and HP investment also allows me to guarantee take a Jolly return from a Mega Lopunny after Rock, so this serves as an additional check to Mega Lopunny in addition to the other mons you'll see here later on my team. And if he's adamant Mega Lopunny, then I outspeed him anyways and can fire off a Hurricane and knock him out. So definitely a super solid mon, part of the taunt core that I'm building around here for this matchup. And the second part of this taunt core is the Mew. This is a max Fizz Def Mew, nothing too fancy here with the investment because I need every single ounce of this bulk to deal with his physical threats, but I do have the Roost, Rock Tomb, Super Fang, and Taunt. Shoutouts to Zazo, of course, for the Super Fang Mew. I was kind of reluctant to bring a Super Fang Mew because I thought it was a little overrated in his eyes, but yeah, I was wrong, quite honestly. This is definitely the best set for this matchup, I feel. Super Fang plus Taunt deals with, quite frankly, everything he could possibly switch in, the only exception being the Dhelmise, which I can Rock Tomb, and I also have other switch-ins to Dhelmise if needed, namely the Torrentee is fat enough to take hits from Dhelmise if I need to, and I do have other members of my roster that are able to deal with it. Plus, because of the Rocky Helmet on this Mew that is there for the Mega Lopunny, I can also slowly wear down the Dhelmise over time if needed, as I believe the majority of its physical moves do make contact, and Dhelmise typically is Assault Vest if it is brought, so I would be able to break it down without it having any chance for recovery. So yeah, super strong against him overall. The only other thing to really note on this is the fact that the Rock Tomb is here for the Volcarona. It doesn't OHKO Volcarona, but the important thing is Volcarona cannot boost speed on my Mew. It can go for a Quiver Dance if he wants to. He's going to be 2-hit KO'd by Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb pushes his speed back down to neutral, meaning that if he kills me the next turn or I sack something off, then I'm going to be able to check the Volcarona with a variety of things on my team that can naturally outspeed Volcarona. So definitely a solid option here, and I believe I forgot to mention okay, never mind. I was going to go back and check something on the Torrentee that I thought I brought. I thought I brought Smackdown, but I guess that was on an earlier version of the team. But regardless, yeah, so this Mew is just super solid against this team. Denies setup against the Volcarona, and is able to 1v1 pretty much everything. So nice and fat, and I love it. Don't need any Spadef to do anything because Mew is naturally bulky on the specially defensive side, and all of his top threats are physical. So that's that. Next up is the Mega Kangaskhan. This is a fat tank set with Wish, Protect, Return, and Fire Punch. So this is first of all able to OHKO an uninvested Volcarona with Return. Pretty nice, but I do anticipate having the Stealth Rocks up early in this game, so I should be able to knock out any form of Volcarona after Stealth Rock, which basically just means this isn't set up fodder for Volcarona either. Wish, Protect allows me to better deal with the likes of a likely Scarfed Crocodile. I think if he brings the Crocodile, it's going to be Choice Scarfed, so this will allow me to deal with that better. It's also decent in terms of stalling out rain turns if he happens to be a Swift Swim Floatzel. With Protect, it's also able to wish up and past some of the other fatter members of my team, as this whole team honestly is pretty fat that I'm bringing here. Definitely bulky offense, no doubts. That's what I'm bringing here in this matchup. And the combination of Return and Fire Punch does deal heavy damage to his entire team. The Fire Punch is there for the Dhelmise and the Registeel, and I believe everything else on his entire roster is absolutely body bagged by Return from this fat and powerful Mega Kangaskhan. I really like this kind of set with Mega Kang being max HP and you know, super strong adamant attacker. I love that kind of set because it can take hits from so many things naturally and still is able to dish out heavy hits against opponents' limited switch-ins. But in terms of his Mega Kang responses in this game, I think it's likely for him to bring maybe a Rocky Helmet on the Latias or the Registeel. I don't really know what other Rocky Helmet users he might bring. Maybe something like a Rocky Helmet Volcarona and pray for the Flame Body burn. I could see potentially Rocky Helmet on the Clefable, maybe, but the fact of the matter is he really doesn't have the best switches to the Mega Kangaskhan, and I really don't think he can afford to even bring Rocky Helmet on the Registeel because his team is so deathly weak to Scolipede. I think he has to bring a Sugar Berry on the Registeel or Chople if he's expecting a potential superpower Power instead of the Earthquake. I don't think he's going to have great switch-ins for this. I really think this will be the week that Mega Kang finally can shine. It hasn't gotten a kill yet for me, unfortunately, this season, but this definitely could be the week because his switch-ins are so limited. And if he brings some of the more passive stuff on his team, like the Clefable, like the Skuntank, for example, or even the Delmise, I get off free heavy hits with this monster, and that's pretty cool for sure. Another little thing to throw in there, Protect is also nice for a high jump kick Mega Lopunny. I think that's very obvious coming from me in this matchup, but it's still nice to have just in case he decides to only bring high jump kick, or just in case I need to click that to prevent high jump kick from getting a kill. So that's that. Pretty straightforward EV spread on that, but definitely a solid breaker against his team. Now another breaker I'm bringing is the Nidoqueen. This is designed to abuse his fat once again, and also just make sure that a Clefable Calm Mind booster is never able to beat my team, as Nidoqueen is a solid stop to a Calm Mind Clefable, no questions asked. Worst case scenario, he might have a Kevia Berry to help him deal with this, but I'm actually bringing both of my poison types here in this matchup to make sure that no matter what, one of the two will be able to knock off, or to deal with the Clefable if it happens to be a Calm Mind variant. The dual Taunters will help me deal with the Cosmic Power Clefable, that's what he decides to bring, and just my team in general would deal well with an offensive Clef because I don't really have to switch into Clef. Everything on my team has a way of dealing with it, with the exception being the last mon on the team that I will show here in just a second. Now this pretty complex EV spread, but basically it allows me to take hits from Mega Lopunny as best as possible while maintaining speed to just beat general speed creeps, as well as some attack investment to allow me to hit the incoming Latias as hard as possible, as if you look across his roster, he's guaranteed bringing the Latias probably as his switch into the Nidoqueen, because otherwise he has no switch in to the Nidoqueen. He also could just take the approach of I'm not going to have switch-ins to Nidoqueen, but the fact of the matter is, Jack always has switch-ins to Pokemon. That's how he preps. That's one of the key things that I've noticed from watching his battles, now that I'm more familiar with him, is that he will always have switch-ins to stuff if he can. And Latias is a pretty decent switch into Nidoqueen as long as I'm not packing the Ice Punch, but even so, being able to dish off heavy damage from a Life Orb Poison Jab, I don't think you can actually see the Life Orb text on this. I do apologize for that. Let me click on that so you can see it. This is Life Orb, meaning that I can deal a lot of damage with the Poison Jab and have the Sucker Punch to follow up and knock out the Latias if necessary, but the Sucker Punch is actually mainly there to help me knock out the Floatzel, as that's still kind of a threat, and if it doesn't have Aqua Jet, then of course I can knock it straight out with the Sucker Punch, because I will not let it have a free turn of setup. I will nuke it on the turn of setup if I am fearing something like a Swift Swim Rain Dance set. So just some food for thought there, but the combination of Poison Jab and Earth Power hits his entire team super freaking hard, and then Rock Slide to once again deny the Volcarona from doing anything in my face. Now next up is the Scolipede. Pretty straightforward set here. It's a Life Orb set with Protect and 3 attacks. Protect allows me to not be chipped down by a fake out Mega Lopunny, as well as again stalling out a turn of Rain against the Floatzel if needed. Pretty much the only reasons for Protect here, honestly, unless he has a boost with the Volcarona, I could also Protect up versus that. In the face of a Volcarona potentially threatening to set up in my face, all I have to do is click Earthquake once and then Poison Jab, and he's guaranteed knocked out by that combination, and Speed Boost ensures that I will always outspeed it, so I don't have to bring Rock Slide and risk a miss, basically, which could be something that could be kind of scary. I don't also have to click Poison Jab twice and risk a burn or something, so yeah, this also beats the Volcarona 1v1 in that case. His only real response to this is the Registeel, and like I already said before, well, it'll probably be Shuca Berry Registeel, almost guaranteed it's going to be Shuca Berry or Chopper, whichever one he's expecting me to bring, and my team breaks down Registeel quite well. If you look across the other 4 members that I've brought, they either taunt Registeel or break Registeel, and there's no middle ground. Registeel does not appreciate this team whatsoever, and I certainly could see Scolipede being a massive threat against him late game with this combination of offensive options. And then finally I have the Diancie. This is kind of my ace in the hole in this match, honestly. It fills so many nice roles in this matchup. It's first of all a Stealth Rocker. Stealth Rock's super nice against his team. I will make Stealth Rocks a priority if he brings the Volcarona, but otherwise they're not really a priority. They're just kind of nice to have. But I wouldn't like risk my Diancie to get Stealth Rocks on the field unless he brings the Volcarona, because I really want that damage on Volcarona on switch-in. as well as damage on potential Staraptor on switching over and over again. So Shook Berry is nice because this makes this a lure for the Crocodile. Crocodile is annoying for my team. I want to take that pressure off of the Mega Kangaskhan to Wallet if I can, and this certainly does the job on that front. The combination of Diamond Storm and Moonblast hits his entire team really freaking hard outside of the Registeel, but this isn't doing anything to Registeel either, quite honestly, so I'd rather have Toxic in that last slot to make sure I can deal with a Calm Mind Latias as well. The defense investment here allows me to deal with a it allows me to deal with the Staraptor, Choice Scarf Staraptor specifically with Brave Bird, Adamant Brave Bird, I believe. Actually, no, I think it's Adamant Banded Brave Bird I'm able to deal with here. I'm able to avoid a 2-hit KO from Adamant Banded Brave Bird, Reckless boosted, of course, just in case. I thought that was a pretty good defensive benchmark to hit, and then the rest in Spadef to allow me to deal as well as possible with the Latias. So yeah, that's the team. The general game plan, like I've kind of already mentioned, but let me go ahead and put it in summary form here to make it as clear as possible. The general game plan here is to get up rocks early if he has the Volcarona. Basically, never let the Volcarona set up at any point during the game. I need to maintain sufficient ways to check the Crocodile that I'm 100% convinced is coming. And I think my team is built such that I can take those hits as well as possible. I think one thing I neglected to mention back here on the Nidoqueen, the defense investment also lets me actually take an Adamant Scarfed Earthquake from the Crocodile from full health as well, which could certainly come in handy if I need to get rid of that thing at some point, or at least severely chip it down with an Earth Power. But if he does bring the Floatzel, I have to keep the Nidoqueen around for the Sucker Punch anyway, so just some food for thought there. But the general idea is to make sure that he is not able to use his passive mons. The Taunt Core really denies that well. I have a Taunt Core, I have Double Breakers, I have a Diancie, which is more or less a pivot and support for my team, and then I have, of course, the Scolipede to clean up late game. So I don't really think his fat stuff is ever going to be able to get traction, but that is the game plan that I'm trying to fulfill. I'm trying to prevent the passive stuff from doing anything. I want to keep Mega Lopunny in check from my Rocky Helmet Mew, plus my Nidoqueen that can take hits from it. Even Torn T can take a hit from it. The only thing that the Megalop comes in on and does damage to is the Mega Kangaskhan, and I do have the Protect for that as well. So yeah, basically just keep the Volcarona in check, keep the defensive core from doing anything nasty, and we should be in good shape here in this matchup, I think, and obviously Crocodile, keep that in check as well. So yeah, that's the team. Let me know what you think in the comments about this. Pretty interesting team, I think. I put a lot of time into this one, quite obviously, I think, and I'm excited to see how it does for sure. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you're looking forward to the battle coming out tomorrow, once again against the Donphanatic. Jack, make sure to check him out. He will be linked in the description below. Looking forward to this game for sure, and I hope you guys are as well. So have a good one, guys. Later.